Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Nati me saranam anyam Buddho me saranam varam Etena satchavajena Bhavatu te jayamangalam Nati me saranam anyam Dhammo me saranam varam Etena satchavajena Bhavatu te jayamangalam Nati me saranam anyam Sangho me saranam varam Etena satchavajena Bhavatu sarvamangalam. Let's recite that mantra. This is the chanting which is done at the International Monastery of sharing of the blessings. So I'll read it and let us all join. I'll stop it in, paraphrase it in, stop it at the appropriate time so that you can feel the English translation. Imina punya kammena padhyaya gunuttara acharya upakara cha mata pita cha nyataka suryo chandima raja gunvanta narapi cha brahma mara cha inda cha lokapala cha devata yamo mitta manussa cha marjata vedikapi cha sabbe satta sukhi huntu punyani pakatani me. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my father, my mother and my relatives, the sun and the moon and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth and the Lord of the death, may those who are friendly, indifferent or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. Sukhanchati vidham dentu kippam pape tavomatam himina punya kammena himina udesanacha kippaham sulabhe eva tanhu padana chedanam ye santane hina dhamma yava nibbanto mamam. Through the goodness, may they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice. And through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind until I realize the Nibbana. Nasantu sabbadayeva yatha jato bhava bhave uju chittam sati panya sallekho viryam hina mara labhantu lokasang katanchu viryesu me buddhadhipvaro natho dhammo natho varuttamo natho pacheka buddho cha Sangho natho taromam tesotama anubhavena marokasam labhantume. In every kind of birth, may I have an upright mind with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the support power of all these, may darkness and illusion be dispelled. That is their daily sharing of blessings.
Buddha को भी noble guide ले रहे हैं, then they are also considering this Pache Buddha as guide.
That's right. They take that also as guide. So maybe there is some noble person who is a Pache Buddha, because that is the tradition in that part. Let's go next up.
So like Pache Buddhas are different from these celestial beings and devas.
No, Pache Buddhas are enlightened beings. The celestial beings are Devata. So we'll study this Magandiya Sutta today. So the next sutta is chapter 4.4, 9th sutta of chapter 4, Magandiya Suttam. So this is the story about a Brahmin named Magandiya, and they had a very extraordinarily beautiful daughter, and they were always in lookout for a very similarly blessed husband for her. Her daughter had a golden complexion, that's what it says. So once the Buddha, from his Maitri, when he arose, he realized that Brahman is ripe time for him to get this Dhamma and he will be enlightened. So that was the traditional way in which Buddha would practice Metta. So he was in Savatthi and he came over to Kammasu Dhamma, which is this place, and sat there below a tree and was meditating, and from his body the golden rays were emitting, and Magandiya was going around. He saw that and was deeply attracted and went near him. And he saw that this is the right person for my daughter to marry. So he goes home, brings his wife and daughter and seeks to Buddha that you marry her. She is the most appropriate person for you to marry. And then Buddha replies him, and what is given in the reply is what is this Magandiya Sutta. And at the end of the discourse, husband and wife became recluses and attained arahantship. But of course Magandiya goes back and she gets very much annoyed because of the response. She then marries, the story is not here but it appears in another sutta. She then marries the king and then tries to take revenge on Buddha again and again and again.
Her daughter married.
Yeah, because she refuses to, uses very hard words and therefore she gets very upset. And then she keeps on, becoming the queen of the chief queen of king, and then there was one other queen who was very devoted to Buddha, then she troubles and torments her and then tries to implicate Buddha in false accusations, and eventually of course she gets into deep trouble. So we'll read that. So once the Magandiya offers his daughter to him, this is what his reply he says. Very tough reply. Diswana tanham aritim ragancha nahosi chando api methunasim kimev idam mutta karissa punnam padapinam sampusita. Says Diswana tanha, on seeing the daughters of Mara at the time of his enlightenment, whose name was Tanha, Arati and Raga, Chando api methunasam. I didn't have any desire for having any sex with them. Kimivedam mutta karisa punyam. Then how can I have any? I will not even like to touch with my foot this body which is filled with urine and excrement. No. So then Magandiya asked him, Etadisam che ratnam na ichhasi narim narindehi bahuhi patittam ditti gatam silavatam nujivitam bhavu papatancha vadesi kidisam. Okay. If you don't want such a woman like this, then why are you doing all this? What sort of viewpoint is there? What sort of practice is there? And what are you talking about? She is probably the best thing in the world to achieve. So that's the way he replies. If you don't want gem of this woman who is coveted by many kings, then for what point of view, precept of life, attainment of what are you talking about? So then the Buddha replies to him, brings him to the Dhamma. So you can read it.
Idam vadamiti natasya hoti dhammesu nichcheya samuggahitam pasancha dittisu anuggahaya ajjatta santim pachinam adasam.
So because he asks him, what is your viewpoint? No, ditti gatam shilovatam. तुम ये शीलवान को पालन कर रहे हो, क्या point of view है? So his reply is, idam vadam iti na tasya hoti. मैं ये मेरा वाद है, मैं इस पे आर्ग्यू करता हूँ, ऐसा विचार नहीं होता. उस समय आर्गुमेंट का परसेप्टिव है, जो भी आप, क्या आपका point of view and how do you argue with it? This thing does not occur to me that this is my point of view. Dhamme sunichche samuggahitam. So after studying what is usually grasped by the various doctrines, it doesn't occur to me that this is my doctrine. Pasancha dittisu anuggahaya. Looking among the views, what is ungrasped, which is not grasped about the views. Ajjatta santim pachinam madasam. I saw deep inner peace. Shanti, ajjatta, within me, shanti, pachinam madasam. So, seeing, not grasping any of these views, I get deep peace. I have attained a deep peace. Then Magandiya speaks to Buddha.
Vinichachaya yani pakapitani teve muni brusi anugahaya ajata santiti yamet mantam kathnam nu dirheyi pavetitam tam.
विनिच्छाय यानी पकपतानी, जो प्रकल्पित चीजें हैं उनको तुमने छोड़, you don't grasp them. Tevi muni brusi anuggahaya. And you say that without grasping any of these things, ajjatta santim yametam atham, you got inner peace, अंदर में तुम्हारे शांति है. What does it mean? That by not grasping anything you get inner peace. ये तो समझ नहीं आया. Katham tu dhirehi paveditam. Okay, what is meant by that inner peace by according to an enlightened person? Please tell me. 8:45. Na ditthya
na suttiya na nina
jnanena
sila bhaktenapi na sutimaha
aditthya
asuttiya anana asilata अवतानोऽपि तेन एते च निसज्जामो अनुगयाः सन्तो अनिशया भवं मे जापि.
So Buddha says, na ditthya, na sutiya, na jnanena. कि ना तो न शीलबतेन अपि न शुद्धिमा. Says that purity is not, he doesn't understand purity comes out of any particular view or out of jnana, out of knowledge or out of sheel or out of any practice. So he says the enlightened being does not speak of purity obtained by any view or any practice or any learning or any knowledge. Then aditya, asutiya, nayana, asilata, abhata, nopitena. And nor is it found by through not having any view, not learning, not knowledge, not precept. Letting these go, etecha nisajja anugaya, letting all of these things go, both learning and not learning, knowing and not learning, practice and not practice. Letting these go without grasping, santo nissaya bhavam na jappe, the peace is obtained, which is independent of one not long for the coming.
इन लोगों का तो बिलीव प्रैक्टिस पे होता है.
तो वो कह रहे हैं कि you do neither believe in practice nor believe in not practice.
मिडिल पाथ यहाँ पर मिडिल पाथ.
So वो कहेगा ये
इन दोनों के मिडिल में क्या होता है ये नहीं समझ आता.
वो अपने आप हो जाए.
मागंदिया कहेगा ना ये हुआ क्या, तुमने कहा क्या. नेक्स्ट इज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग, रीड इट. ओके, ये क्या कह रहे हो. It doesn't mean anything.
No chekir dittiya na sutiya na nanen sil pabbte na
शीलबद्ध कहते हैं, शीलबद्ध परामर्श हुआ है. शीलबद्धे नपि
न शुद्धि माह अदित्या असुत्या अनाना असीलता अपब्बता नोपि तेन मनना महम मोमुहमेव धम्मम दिट्ठिया एके पच्चेन्ति शुद्धिम.
So he says, if an enlightened being says that purity does not come either by view, nor by not view, either by learning, not by not learning, either by knowledge, not by non-knowledge, this seems to be totally confused teaching. Or most people say that ditthya eke pachanti suddhim. They say that purity comes by means of a particular view. And notice you are saying, then the Buddha answers this question.
Tancha nisaya anupacha mano
Samuggahitesu.
Pammo hamaga itto cha nadakhi anumpi sanyam tasmatuvam momuto dahasi.
तीर्थंच निस्साय, मतलब डिट्ठी के ऊपर सपोर्ट लेके अनुपुच्छ माना. You keep on asking me questions. She says you are asking questions which are dependent on your own view. Samugguhiteshu pamoha maga, and you are confused because of that, because you have a particular view and that is confusing you. Itoch nadakhi anupi sanyam tasmatuvam mo muhoto dahasi. So you ito na nadakhi, you are not able to see even anu api sanyam. You can't see even a little bit of what I am saying. You can't perceive that, even a slight notion of what I am saying. Tasma tuvam mo. That's why you are confused, because you are totally grasping one particular point of view, that if you have a point of view, then only purity is obtained. If you have a right point of view, then you get purity. Since you are grasping that, because you are not able to understand what I am saying.
सर यहाँ पे
प्योरिटी कैसे आएगी फिर?
पढ़ो, सुनो, नो तो उसको he is talking to him at the highest possible level. अगला पढ़ेंगे ना तो उसमें क्लियर हो जाएगा.
सर दिट्ठिया जो है बुद्ध उनके लिए दिट्ठिया के लिए मना कर रहे हैं, और सम्मा दिट्ठी इज वन ऑफ दोज.
Yeah, he says that also should not be grasped. That's why he says there should be neither by having grasping a view nor by grasping the not view. कि मुझे कोई व्यू नहीं रखना है या मुझे कोई व्यू रखना है, मुझे प्रैक्टिस करनी है, मुझे प्रैक्टिस नहीं करनी है. Both of these things should not be grasped. They should be natural flow of the consciousness. Whatever things want to happen, they should happen. It's a,
फिर जैसे अब ये साधना के लिए बैठते हैं, फिर क्या कहना है?
साधना करते समय भी कि मैं साधना इसलिए कर रहा हूँ कि मुझे कुछ प्राप्त होना है, तो फिर मैं का भाव आ जाएगा उसमें।
नहीं, मतलब फिर जो हो रहा है वही देखना है।
हाँ, तो इसलिए साधना भी ऐसी है ना कि जो हो रहा है उसको देखना है, तो उसमें कुछ करना तो नहीं है ना। नॉर्मली हम कुछ करना चाहते हैं विद एन ऑब्जेक्टिव।
नहीं तो हम बैठते तो साधना के लिए।
हाँ, नहीं, शुरू में तो ऐसे ही होगा ना। शुरू में तो हम
बैठते तो साधना के
बैठेंगे,
लिए।
कुछ ऑब्जेक्टिव होगा, कुछ करेंगे। बाद में तो बैठने की जरूरत नहीं है ना साधना के लिए।
अपने आप
प्रतिक्षण साधना है। Every moment we are alive, we are aware what is happening. That's it. That is sadhana. आपने वहाँ पे देखा ना, वाट पापा में कोई साधना करते हुए नजर आया आपको? जो भी कर रहे थे
सर monks तो बहुत करते हैं।
हाँ, they do it, but
मॉर्निंग में 3-4 आवर्स करते हैं।
नहीं, फॉर्मली नहीं करते। फॉर्मली तो हाँ 3 घंटे बैठते हैं, but that is chanting and some meditation and other things. But they do it in their kuti.
कुटी में भी तो बैठते हैं ना, कहीं कहीं
हाँ,
बैठे कुटी में बैठे हैं।
but this point of view, what I am saying is that the objective is not there of any sadhana कि मुझे ये attain होना चाहिए।
नहीं attain नहीं, but they sit for
हाँ, that's all right.
they sit no.
They sit just as
why they sit?
Just as you can't keep on walking all the time, no? You can't keep on walking all the time. You sit, you sleep, you
They
eat.
sit that we want to meditate now.
There is no wanting. No? If there is wanting, there is problem. So it's a subtle thing you have to catch.
What's the
Why they sit?
concept
They have
of
to
formal
practice.
meditation is there in monastery.
Yeah, it is there.
They will sit for meditating.
See, as long as you are not enlightened, you will have to sit for particular objective. So when Buddha was asked, why do you sit early in the morning? He says, I sit because I'm tired. Bodies gets tired throughout the day. And as a क्या था उनका उद्देश्य था? Word था वो बड़ा beautiful. As an example to the future generation. If you become even fully enlightened, you should sit. Not because you want something out of it. It doesn't want anything out of it. So a fully enlightened being sits not because he wants anything out of it. It sits where it is pleasant. दिन भर बहुत इसे शरीर की ग्लानि को दूर करने के लिए, शरीर में जो थकावट हो जाती है because of day long talking, discussion, this, that. No, I sit for that. Pleasant abiding, that is meant. The word they use for jhanas are pleasant abidings. Because the external things are too unpleasantly interacting on the world, on the body. Pleasant abiding, even in spite of the external world being harsh. जैसे वो देखा था ना, एक दृष्टांत आता है that they go to a village and there's no food given to them. And another time he's sitting on a tree and there's no food. And the Mara comes, क्या भूखे पे पैसे मार रहे हो? What are you doing? How will you get it? You won't even get a sleep. Somebody comes. He says, it doesn't matter. Because the person has attained that side of realization that the needs are not there in that sense. Naturally what happens is fine, acceptable.
So this is a question from Silesh. If no views on practice and going with the flow, then what's the difference between practitioners and non-practitioners?
He is not saying no views. He said you don't have to grasp views and you don't have to say that views should not be grasped. You have a view, of course, but you don't grasp, hold on to it. पहले भी एक बार हमने पढ़ा था ना, क्या था वो? One should neither be attached nor be non-attached. Last time जो Sutta था, last time या उससे पहले वाले में था?
इससे पहले
से पहले में था ना. We should neither be attached to it, nor should we be non-attached.
सबसे कब बचा क्या?
We are in a state of freedom.
हम तैर रहे हैं.
In a state of freedom. We are in a state of freedom. We should not grasp attachment, nor grasp non-attachment.
Non-grasping तो बुद्धा कहते हैं you should not grasp.
Yeah. You should not grasp anything. And you should not grasp even that perspective that you should not grasp anything. इस बात को भी एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू बना के कि किसी चीज को ग्रैस्प नहीं करना है, वो पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू बना लिया ना उसको.
बहुत सारे वर्ड्स का वो हो गया, मिक्सचर हो गया.
नहीं, okay, let's read the next one, then it will become more confused, then we'll come out of that confusion, because there is another question. I think next वाला और confusion हो जाएगा. Then ज़्यादा confusion create हो जाता है, then it becomes clear ना. समो विशेषी उद्वा निहिन्नो यो मन्यति सो विवादेत तेना तिसु विधसु अविकम्पस्मानो समो विशेषिति न तस्य होति. समो विशेषी उदना निहिन्नो, जो भी मानता है कि वी आर इक्वल और स्पेशल और सुपीरियर और इंफीरियर, by that he would dispute. Okay, tisu vidhayesu avankampamano, one who is not affected by all these three things, samo visesiti natasya hoti. By these three, they do not occur to him that either I am equal to you, or I am superior to you, or I am inferior to you. Now, if you say pure logic, it makes no sense. If there are two things, they can either be similar, or they can be, one can be better than other, or one can be inferior than other. Just all of that is a matter of dispute. So you should just give up there, because there is no I actually who is there to be equal or further. Things are just happening naturally. It's only because we grasp them, we say, oh, I am here, I am this, I am that. So for a person who is really fully enlightened, then these things, there is no need for any discussion on that issue. That question doesn't arise. He says, in whom equal, unequal or not, in what dispute would such a one enter? So there is no issue of a view. ये तो बड़ा बेसिक व्यू है ना कि मैं अच्छा हूँ कि बुरा हूँ कि इससे हम दोनों एक जैसे हैं. आजकल सभी कहते हैं ना, we are all one. That also is unnecessary. There is no need. There is no one here to be one with another one. So he is talking about at the level, because he probably perceives that this Magandhya is ready to be enlightened. So he is talking up at that level where he can see through the illusion of self.
क्या दो प्राणियों का ऐसा होगा सिस्टम, मतलब जो भी चल रहा होगा कि इक्वली चल रहा हो? प्राणी
है ही नहीं ना, हम उसको प्राणी मान रहे हैं, यही तो दिक्कत है.
अच्छा, प्राणी नहीं है, फिर भी सबका एक जैसा क्यों नहीं चल रहा?
नहीं चल रहा, कर्म संस्कार अलग अलग है ना. एक पेड़ अलग होता है, एक आम का पेड़ होता है, एक संतरे का पेड़ होता है. सारे पेड़ आम के तो नहीं होंगे ना.
नहीं, पर कहीं भी सिमिलैरिटी नहीं होती है.
तो भी तो वो कह रहे हैं ना, सिमिलर भी नहीं है, अलग भी नहीं है, सिमिलर भी नहीं है ना. अब इस प्रकृति में नाना प्रकार के पेड़ होते हैं ना, सब एक जैसे पेड़ तो नहीं होते. अब ये कहो कि आम सुपीरियर है कि संतरा सुपीरियर है, तो हमारी प्रॉब्लम है ना, उनकी प्रॉब्लम नहीं.
किन्हीं दो व्यक्तियों को ये नहीं माने कि मैं हूँ, एक जैसी अनुभूति एक समय में लगातार होती है.
अनुभूति का कोई मतलब ही नहीं है ना. ही इज टॉकिंग अबाउट समो, एक दूसरे को बराबर मानना, विशेष मानना, व निहिन्नो या हीन मानना. जो किसी को, अपने को या किसी और को समझता है कि वो मेरे जैसा ही है, या मेरे से हीन है, या मेरे से बहुत अच्छा है, तब आपस में डिस्प्यूट हो जाएगी. देन दैट विल बी द कॉज ऑफ डिस्प्यूट. So this whole perception of, because this is based on the perception that there is a being there, एक person है, that is the real problem. So the next one I think is associated with that only. Sachanti so brahmano kim vadeya musati va so vivade thakena yasmin samam visamam vapi nathi sakena vadam patisamyuje. So Sachanti so brahmano kim vadeya. So of what would the Brahman say is true or false, disputing with one, in whom equal, unequal are not. In what dispute would such a one enter? So the whole concept of two things being equal or unequal is not there. So there are no disputes. Therefore, a particular point of view or another point of view, they are no longer any point of view with the person. For us, for example, when we see something directly, there's no need of a point of view about what it is. Within the conceptual frame, when we see a tree, we don't need to have a point of view that it is a tree. It is quite obvious it is a tree, isn't it? So the same way, when we are in a position to see things properly, it is no longer a point of view. It is the reality. Is this now a point of view for us, for all of us, as so long we have meditated? Is this a point of view that suffering is caused by self-view? Let us just reflect. Is this a point of view, or we see it quite obvious?
Yes, suffering is
Caused by notion of I. Isn't it? It's no longer a point of view. We have experienced it so much. Every moment we experience it, yeah, it's obvious. What is the point of view in it? So, but we had done 20 years back, were not clear. Then we were not clear. Then we thought suffering is caused by this. Isn't it? Now it is clear. So it became clear through right view. But then right view is also given up because it's no longer a view. It is reality. It is clear. It is as evident as anything. That everybody will die, that this body will die, is no longer a point of view. If you know it will happen, it's absolutely clear. So that is what is meant by not having a grasping a point of view.
जब आप grasping a point of view कहते हैं तो suffering तो मैं grasp कर रहा हूँ ना, suffering तो मुझे ही हो रही है ना.
हाँ, तो point of view आपने grasp कर लिया ना, मैं हूँ. If I grasp the notion that I am, then I am suffering. Definitely. If I don't grasp it, if I understand there's nothing in it, it is just a mixture of 5 khandhas operating and going on, then I can see. Not intellectually. We are not talking of intellectual. Actually, but you have to practice that extent. What does it mean? If something is happening to body, fine, okay. If I die, okay, fine. That's not a big deal.
तो ठीक है, लेकिन वही बात आती है कि you are suffering means you have pain or you have suffering.
You don't have pain. Body is having experience.
Body is having experience, but you are having.
You are attached to the body.
That.
That's it. Okay. Okay. There is a reaction. No. Don't take that reaction personally. If body is having pain, body is reacting. Fine. Okay. That's all right. It is the law of nature. If there is somebody's pain, he'll cry. Fine. So what? So what? We have made a view that I should not cry because I am a meditator. Then okay. Then you will suffer. That's the point. No, it is very important. You raised a very important question. Please, they have to understand it thoroughly. If because of certain conditions I cry, that's okay. So what? So what? The mind is, there is a condition and mind has cried. Fine. Okay. I'm just observing. Crying is happening. Fine.
But you cannot observe it. That is the problem.
Yeah, that's why. That is the training. Because we are grasping to our body, we are grasping to our image. Oh, I am a whole meditator and I should not be grasping. Or crying is bad. Or getting angry is bad.
No, you don't think of meditator. But
anybody.
No.
We are talking of ourselves. ना normal आदमी के बारे में नहीं बात करना चाहते ना. हम तो 30 साल से साधना कर रहे हैं तो हम तो उनके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं ना. नॉर्मल के बारे में मत छोड़ दो. अब ये मत कहें.
अब जैसे हम बैठते हैं, हमें पता है पेन बॉडी में चलते फिरते हैं, बैठते हुए पेन हो रही है. पर कभी कभी पेन इतना ज्यादा होता है ना, यू कैन नॉट टॉलरेट इट. तो तुम्हारा ध्यान तो उधर जाता ना, फिर मतलब
नहीं. तो क्या हो गया? तो क्या हो गया?
अरे तुम कराते हो मानो पेन.
हाँ ठीक है. इट्स ऑल राइट. यू आर सेइंग मैं करा रहा हूँ.
ये तो जान लेते करा.
बस ठीक है. तो उसको डोंट टेक इट पर्सनली. सो व्हाट? उस कराने को बुरा मत मानो ना.
बुरा नहीं मानते
हैं. नहीं बुरा नहीं मानते तो फिर उसको क्या दिक्कत है?
बुरा लगता है ना, मतलब दुख होता है ना.
दुख होता है क्योंकि उसको हमने ग्रास्प कर लिया ना. दुख मुझे हो रहा है.
फिर किसको?
यही तो की यही है ना.
जब पता है दुख रहा हो तो ठीक है, ध्यान करो. जो हो रहा है तो बीच में जो
असली की तो वही है. भगवान की वाणी है ना. Suffering should be understood. He didn't say there is I am suffering. He says there is suffering. पहला प्रवचन है. सभी को जान सुने तो उसी को पकड़ के रखते हैं.
Cannot be understood.
That you will understand only when you are in pain, not otherwise. How can you understand when there is no pain? तब तो कहाँ intellectually theory बनाओगे कि pain होता है, ऐसा होता है. Actually, when pain is there, then you have to understand. This is what is called pain. And pain produces reaction. Okay, this pain produces reaction. Fine. But when we understand it more and more, it will not produce reaction naturally. That is the key thing. The trouble happens because we get worried about producing reaction. We get worried about things. We take them, grasp them. We don't only grasp the body, much more bigger grasping is of the point of view. Grasping of sankhara, grasping of sanya, that is the bigger problem. Much bigger problem than body is sanya grasping. We have a perception and we hold on to it. So this discourse is actually to see that all perceptions are wrong, basically. And we have studied elsewhere also. No? Perception is like a mirage. वो जो था ना हमने सुत्ता पढ़ा था. क्या था? फोम वाला. फोम सुत्ता, फेन सुत्ता पढ़ा था. इसमें भगवान ने हर एक खंड के लिए एक सिमिली दी थी. बॉडी इज लाइक ए लंप ऑफ फोम, sankharas are like a banana tree, the feelings are like bubbles on water, and sanya is like mirage, and consciousness is like a magician's trick. You see something and think you are seeing. Magician has created a trick. So that is a very powerful discourse and simile which you should remember all the time. Because then we can easily get over all these difficulties. Next up.
सच्चन्ति सो ब्राह्मणो किम वदेय मुसाति वासो.
ये तो हो गया ना?
हैं?
ये तो कर लिया.
इसे समूह
दोनों पढ़ दिए थे ना.
ओके.
850.
ओकम पहाय अनिकेत सारी गामे अकुब्बम मनु मुनि संतवानी कामे ही रिक्तो अपिरुख रानो कथम न विज्ञय जनेन करिया. कईर.
ओकम पहाय मतलब घर को छोड़ के, अनिकेत सारी who lives free from society, he lives in seclusion. Game akubbam muni santhavani, the sage in villages, goes on in grama, in villages. Kame hi rikto, rikt kamo se, there is no pleasures, he is rid of sensual pleasures. Apure kharanno, is free from all yearning. Katham na viggeya janeya kaira. So he would not engage with people in any kind of a debate. अगला उसके साथ ही है वैसे.
ये ही विवित्तो विचार्य लोके ना तनी उघाया वेदाय नगो नागो जल भूम उजम कंदखम विरया जम वारिजम था जालेना पानेखा पंकेन चनु पलिथं एवं मुनि संतिवादो अगिद्धो कामे च लोके च अनुपलिथो.
ये ही विवत्तो विचरेय लोके न तहि उग्गेय वदेय नागो. Nago means a great person. So those things from which he is aloof, he should go about in the world. The great one would not take them up and argue from them. What is the example given? Jalam bujja kandakam varijam yatha. Just as a lotus with the small pricks and small in them. Jalena pankena chanu palittam. He is not unsoiled by the water or the mud in which it remains. So immediately a sage would, if he is without any attachment, without any greed, is not soiled by the sensuality of the world. संसार में जो भी चीजें हैं वो उससे अनुलिप्त हो रही. He is not getting attached by that. So even though he is moving around in the world, he is not soiled by that.
न वेदगु इत्यायको न मुतिया समानमेति नहि तन्मयो सो न कम्मना नोपि सुतेन नेयो अनुपनीतो स निविसनेषु.
Now Veduhu, a person who is become wise, Ditthiyayako Namuttiya. Samanameti na hi tamayoso. He doesn't become proud because of a particular view or the knowledge. Why? Na kamuna nopi sutena neyo anupanitosu nivesanasi. So he's not attached to them, because of his knowledge or views. He doesn't become proud because of them, because he's not attached to them. And nakamuna is enticed neither by action, nopi sutena neyo, nor by learning. Anupanitosu nivesanesu, because he is detached in every situation. Sanya
virtasya न संति गंधा पन्या विमुक्तस्य न संति मोहा संज्ञान दिठिनम च ये अग्रहेसु ते घट्टयन्ता विचरन्ति लोके ति
एंड हो गया. संज्ञा विरक्तस्य, जो संज्ञा से विरक्त रहता है, परसेप्शन, हु इज नॉट अटैच्ड टू डिस्पैशनेट टुवर्ड्स परसेप्शन, न संति ग्रंथा, उसकी कोई ग्रंथि नहीं होगी, नॉट बी टाइड टू एनीथिंग. पन्या विमुक्तस्य न संति मोहा, वन हु इज फ्रीड बाय विजडम, देयर इज नो डिल्यूजन फॉर हिम एनी लॉन्गर. संज्ञांच दिट्ठिंच ये अग्रहेसुम, so those people who hold on to some perceptions and views, te ghatayanti vicharanti loke, they go about hitting people here, hitting the world again here and there. So they go about knocking against the world here and there. So this is the end of this sutta. And apparently at the end of it, both of them said, okay, we'll now become monks. So the key thing here is this, sanya viratasya, that perception, we should not be attached to perceptions. Even the right ones, so-called right perceptions. And now we can take up questions.
There was this pending question from Shilesh that having a view means subtle alignment to grasping.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's a difference between having a view and seeing. You don't have a view about the path from here to Noida. आपको कोई view है उसके बारे में? So you just walk on it. There's no view about it.
But that direct knowledge also becomes a view, because if somebody asks you what is your view on the right directions from,
then you'll give him a path. You don't have a view कि यही ठीक है कि यही गलत है कि ऐसा करना है कि वैसा करना है.
but if somebody says कि among the 3 different routes, what do you think is the best route? Also?
Yeah,
I think this is the best route.
Then you tell him.
That's a view.
That is the you've seen it, that this is the best from certain criteria, whatever is the distance, time, space, or time or distance or whatever. But you've seen it, na? You don't have to argue with somebody who says, नहीं ये नहीं है वो वाला रास्ता है. You don't need to argue with him. Na? ठीक है, तुम उस रास्ते चले जाओ.
But if somebody starts to have a discussion कि वो रास्ता better है कि ये better है, I'll tell him
Yeah,
this one is better.
Suppose he says no, that is better.
But from his point of view, I have a view.
No, that's okay. But is this a view of yours, or is it a direct experience of yours? That is the difference. View is something which you have made based on intellectual understanding. And when that intellectual understanding is internalized, isn't it? Then it becomes direct seeing. Right? When we say sammaditthi, what does it mean? It means the right view. And what is that right view? Dukkha jnanam, dukkha samudaya jnanam. So if you have really known suffering and understood when it is suffering, it is no longer a point of view, it is clear, absolutely. Because you have experienced it so many times you have verified, that it no longer remains a view, it becomes a direct knowledge. That's how The views get internalized by reflection, by experiencing them again and again and again. That's how views will get internalized. Then no longer remain views. If somebody says to you, no, suffering is not caused by your own internal defilement, is caused by the surroundings, you don't have to get into confusion. You will not get into confusion about it.
If somebody asks me, should we sit in formal meditation to get enlightenment?
Yeah. So you should tell him, yes, why not? That will help you. Because you have also got it through that path. Isn't it? See, the point, the issue here is that of taking some truths and making a issue out of it and becoming attached to that and getting into disputes with others. Because the beginning of this sutta, you would see, was about what is your point of view, and how do you say that without a point of view you can get peace of mind. Because the perception is that only when you have a certain point of view you will get peace of mind. He's saying actually that having a particular point of view and getting attached to it is contrary to the peace of mind. It will not allow you that peace. Because then you will be always defending it, holding on to it, grasping it. And everybody saying otherwise, you will get confused, you will get into a dispute. And that will not result in any peace in that sense. Isn't it? What do you think? Any other question?
First, let's take that.
सर वो जो स्टार्टिंग में 3 डॉक्टर्स ऑफ मारा थी उसमें आरती का क्या मतलब था?
नहीं, आरती नहीं, रति होना चाहिए।
रति।
अच्छा, रति तो नहीं। I thought that's पेड़ है ना उसमें।
हाँ, ये है, पता नहीं कैसे ये आ गया। यहाँ पे भी है, पाली में भी है। उनका नाम तो तन्हा, रति और राग था ना। You can see the name itself is indicative of what is the quality of that. But Arati क्यों आ गया? यहाँ पे भी Arati लिखा हुआ है।
So Shailesh has this question. Sitting to get enlightened is also a view. I guess the point is that you flow with Dhamma, that then be attached, that you need to sit.
Yeah, that's true. The point of view is that the कहा जाता है ना कि एक जैसे हमने पहले भी उसमें एक पढ़ा था ना, while discussing the paradox of Buddha's teaching, that you have to practice a lot in order to give a practice. उसमें I think Rodney Smith में या उसमें है,
Rodney Smith तो यही बात है।
Rodney Smith में है या इनमें भी है, जान सुने तो that before you get over the concept of practice, you have to practice a lot for that. Then you become established. Then you are practicing, if you use the word that practice, round the clock, because you are operating from a different perspective altogether. You have understood the illusion of I, and then you are letting the things operate naturally.
जैसे अजान सुमेध हो या कोई भी अमाउंट बैठते होंगे तो नॉर्मली जितनी इनकी जहाँ ये पहुँचे हैं तो इनके मन में ये नहीं होता ना वी आर सिटिंग meditating or
they don't have anything to attain. I presume that at least अजान सुमेध I can easily
attain. भाई यही हो सकता है कि हाँ
you get a you want, as a matter of habit you have formed it, that you should sit for some time.
वो तो कर बैठेंगे तो मैं सारा दिन खड़ा तो कोई नहीं रहेगा बैठ के.
So when you are sitting, if you have some work, you do that work. If you don't have work, you are sitting and you are being with you. You are being yourself. You are being yourself. You are just in a state of peace. You like to
मतलब तो ये
abide in peace most of the time.
पर ये तो फिर ये है ही गलत कि हम बैठ के ध्यान करते हैं. मतलब बैठ के ध्यान करने में फिर आपका
गलत ठीक नहीं है. वो तो स्थिति है ना. जैसे छोटा बच्चा है, उसको तो को पढ़ना पड़ेगा ना. अब हम एमए वाले को कहो फिर से एबीसी पढ़ो, वो ठीक नहीं है ना. लेकिन दिक्कत ये है कि हम वही ABC में खुश है तो that is the problem. So as we move further in the path, something should drop off. If we don't drop them off, it means we are attached to them. So that is what is being pointed out. We should drop them. I mean, they should naturally fall down. It's not that you have to drop them; they naturally fall aside.
So, if we treat this like, we have to sit to reach to a stage where we can drop sitting, it somehow becomes another attainment that we have to sit to attain that stage where we can drop sitting.
We don't have to drop; it will get dropped. That is the difference. It's not that we have to drop, because if I am dropping, then I am there preserved very much now. So it's a subtler than that. वो शब्दों की लिमिट है ना, what language can convey. It will drop off automatically. Just like example दी जाती है ना snake की, जो रुगा सुत्ता पड़ा था शुरू में. At a time comes, then snake drops off the outer skin. It doesn't think about it कि अब time हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है.
But उसका तो
when the time is ripe, it drops off. When the time is ripe, the fruit falls down. The tree does not think कि कब मुझे इस पेड़ को, इस फल को कब गिराना है.
But it all is happening in natural process.
Natural process.
But with us, it is not in natural process.
Yeah, it will happen in natural process.
No. We have to practice for that.
Yeah, that's right. So a tree also has to be protected and taken care of in the beginning, isn't it? It has to be protected from so many things, taken care of. When it grows, then you don't need to protect it, it will protect you. इतने पेड़ लगे हुए हैं, कौन उनको बाधक करता है? They are just getting their own nutrition from nature. नहीं?
There is a question from Rajendra ji. Point of view for myself should be a must to go forward with steadfast attention. Is it right?
In the beginning, yes, it is right, certainly. As long as, at the stage at which we are, we have a point of view. Right view we have, and we adopt right view rather than wrong. And we follow that path. And the key thing is being aware, isn't it? The key thing about the whole path is awareness, definitely. So, when people say that rather than identifying with the body, you start identifying with the awareness. So that is the way. And eventually you drop that also, identification. भगवान ने भी कहा ना, सती पठान में जैसे जैसे साधना करते जाएंगे, we come to the stage यावदेव ज्ञानमत्ताय सतीमत्ताय अनिश्चयो च विहरति. So you keep on practice yavadev till such time as there is only mindfulness and knowledge. There is no person who is mindful. Now it's very funny, but you begin to experience it, when you are in proper practice. You begin to experience that things are happening. There is knowing rather than a person who is knowing it. Intellectually also you have to understand, and then practically also really get a glimpse of that. Any other question? Anything else? Good. So let us study our Abhidhamma and finish it today. That part. उसमें देख लो, उसमें
बार बार बंद हो जाता है, कितनी बार परेशान करो.
अच्छा ये
बार बार ये याद आ गया.
ब्लैकआउट हो जाता है.
इसकी उसे डिस्प्ले टाइम आउट बढ़ा देते हैं.
नहीं, वो फिर बाद में बंद हो गया, मैंने खोला ही नहीं.
Coming to the near end of that links. So what are the things we put? Let us put ourselves back in that frame of mind. Hetupachayo, Arammanapachayo, Adhipatipachayo, Anantarapachayo, Samanantarapachayo, Anyamanyapachayo, Nissapachayo, Nissapachayo, Purejatapachayo, Pachajatapachayo, Asevanpachayo, Kammapachayo, Pakapachayo, Dhyanapachayo, Maggapachayo, Sampayukta Pachayo, Upayukta Pachayo. It's right up to Upayukta Pachayo. Then the other four are remaining. Atti Pachayo, Natti Pachayo, Vigata Pachayo and Avigata Pachayo. So now this Atti means presence. So there are phenomena, dhammas, which affect others because of their presence. Now you can see that all that we studied till now, they all influence each other. Most of them either influence each other by presence or some influence because of absence, because they are not there. So that is what is meant by. So you will find many of the things which you already studied, they come back again. So you can see the relations getting related, themselves being related to each other. So Athipachayo means it's the causally relates. It's not causally, sorry, spelling is wrong. It should be causally. Causally relates itself to its effect by being present in three phases of time, that is during arising and during passing away and during sustenance. So there is some temporary overlap during which it supports the conditioned state. And then these are again of 5 different types. Sahajata Pachayo, which we already studied, arising together, Purejat arising before, Pachajat arising later, Ahara arising as a nutriment, Indriya arising as a faculty. And as I have been telling you, Lady Sayadaw is seen to be the authority in Abhidhamma, so he adds 2 more on his. He says Aramman Purejat and Aramman Vattu Purejat, which is actually a finer distinction of Purejat. Aramman Purejat means born earlier but as an object, and second is Araman Vattu Purejat, born as a sense base, as a base. So what is the recitation in the Patthana is this: Chattaro Khanda Arupino Anyamanning Atthipachena Pachayo, 91st line. Chattaro Mahabhuta Anyamanning Atthipachena Pachayo. So Chattaro Khanda and Arupino means non-material khandas which are there, the 4 khandas. They are Anyamanning, they are reciprocally related, mutually related, Athipa by presence, which we know already that the 4 khandas are always simultaneously present. So it is Sahajata also. Chattaro Mahabhuta Anyamanning Atthipachena Pachayo. So the 4 Mahabhutas also, that is the earth, air, fire, water, they are also related to each other by reciprocity and also by presence. So if one is present, others will also be present. So they condition each other by presence. The next one, Okanti Khane Namarupam Anyamanning Atthipachena Pachayo. Okanti Khane means at the time of conception, at the time of being born. So at the time of conception, Namarupa are reciprocally related with the presence. They also influence each other as presence, and we know they are also serving in that manner. Chitta Chetsika Dhamma, Chitta Samutthananan Rupana, Atthipachena Pachayo. So Chitta and the Chetsika, all these Dhammas, and the Chitta Samutthananan Rupana, and the Rupas which arise because of Chitta. We already seen that Chitta gives rise to Rupas. They are again related to each other by Athi condition. Then Mahabhuta Upada Rupanam Atthipachena Pachayo. So these 4 great primary elements, they are, and the rupas which are derived matter which arises from that. So all the matter which we see is derived from 4 primaries: earth, air, fire and water. So they are also related with presence condition. Then Chakkhayatanam Chakkhu Vinyana Dhatuya Tan Sampayutta Kanam Dhammanam Atthipachena Pachayo. So Chakkhayatanam means the eye, ear base or the rupa. Chakkhu Vinyana Dhatuya, the arising of Chakkhu Vinyana. Tam Sampayutta Kanam Cha Dhammanam, and all associated dhammas which arise with that Vinyana. Atthipachena Pachayo. They are also related to each other by presence condition. So eye base is related to eye consciousness by present, because if eye base is present, only then eye consciousness will arise. And similarly, all other sense bases, ear, nose, tongue, body and so on, they will also arise by because of presence. Then Rupayatanam Chakku Vijnana Dhatuya Tan Sampayutta Kanan Dhammanam Arthipachena Pachayo. So the Rupa means the visible object. It is again the base. Just as the eye base is there, similarly the external Rupa. Ear base is there and the external sound. So that is being pointed out. That visible object base is related to eye consciousness and associated Dhammas by presence. They have to be present at this, for each other to be present. Similarly, the sound base, the odor, taste, tangible object base, they are all related to the corresponding consciousness, ear consciousness and visual consciousness element, and other chetsikas by presence condition. So it's quite easy to see that. Then we have the final part of it. Rupayatanam, Saddhayatanam, Gandhayatanam, Rasayatanam, Potabbayatanam, Manodhatuya, Tan Sampayutta Kanang Dhammanam, Attipachena Pachayo. So all these ayatanas, they serve as presence condition for Manodhatu. Just as there is Manovinyan Dhatu, you remember there is Manodhatu. And what are those Manodhatus? Remember? Panchadvara Vajan, which we had studied in process. Those things which are not directly involved in cognition, but they precede the cognition process. So Panchadvara Vajan is, for example, 5-door sense objective, then the Sampatichana Chitta, which we had studied, receiving consciousness and the adverting consciousness. They are the Manodhatu. Yam Rupam Nisaya Manodhatuya Cha Manovinyana Dhatuya Cha Vattanti is 96. Tam Rupam Manodhatuya Cha Manovinyana Dhatuya Cha Tam Sampayutta Kanam Dhammanam Arthipachena Pachayo. So he says Yam Rupam Nisaya Manodhatu. So depending on this matter, mind element and Manovinyana Dhatu and the mind consciousness element arise. That matter is related to mind element and consciousness element by presence condition. So this is the various dimensions of presence condition. Sometimes the objects are present simultaneously, they arise. Sometimes they arise earlier because eye base has to be present before seeing can happen. The external object has to be present before seeing can happen. So in that way it is being pointed out. The Nathi is the reverse of it, absence. And in case of absence, there is only one condition, that is the contiguity condition, which you already studied. So the contiguity condition, there is one mental state and then another one arises. So the one which was earlier has to be absent for this to arise. So that is what is meant by absence condition. So it is what is written here. Samanantara niruddha chitta chetsika dhamma pattu upannanam chitta chetsikanam dhammanam natti pachena pachayo. So it says Samanantara niruddha chitta chetsika dhamma. So the states of consciousness and chetsik mental factors which have just ceased in the Samanantara pachayo, they are related to the present states of consciousness and mental factors by absence, which means the earlier states become absent, then the new states arise. So this is what is meant by the absent state. Then next is Vigat Prachayo. Now Vigat Prachayo is disappearance, and steady Sayadaw says is exactly the same as the presence. Disappearance state is the same thing as the absence one. So if you read it also, the enunciation, it is the same. Just as Nathi Pachya enunciation is Samanantara Niruddhaya Chitta Chetsika Dhamma Pachupannanam Chitta Chetsikanam Dhammanam Nathi Pachena Pachya. In Vigata also same thing is there. Samanantara Vigata Chitta Chetsika Dhamma. Only thing is, instead of Athi, it is saying Vigata. Chitta Chetsika Dhamma Panchupannanam Chitta Chetsikanam Dhammanam Vigata Pachena Pachya. So states of consciousness and mental factors which have just disappeared in contiguity are related to present state of consciousness by disappearance. So whether you call it disappearance or absence, Lady Sayadaw says they are both the same. So
विगत और वो जो अति बराबर ही है ना फिर तो
नथी नॉट और विगत का उल्टा अगला आया अविगत पच्चय. So अविगत और अथि सेम हो गए. अविगत means non disappearance. So if you read the whole thing, this 99, 100, 101, it is exactly the same thing as the one for athi pacchaya. This is the kind of why is it put then and they are same. There is no explanation given anywhere. So some people say it was made mostly for numerical reasons, that they wanted 24 rather than 21 and therefore they added these. Some say there is a finer distinction between them, but I couldn't find out anywhere what is the finer distinction between avigata and ati or vigata and nati. I couldn't find. There's nowhere it is mentioned. Everywhere they quoted aside to say that they are effectively the same. So this is all these 24 links. It concludes the discussion. Then actually in the Abhidhamma manual, these 24 are not discussed in that manner. They have discussed it in terms of the groups. So what we have done is already discussed them separately, then we can put them all together in groups. So that's what I have just done in the later slides. Just for the sake of completeness, we can see that. We have already studied them. I have just picked up the things from various places and put them together. Because that has its value, and when you summarize it in groups, you can understand what is influencing what. So there is, for example, mind influencing mind. So how is the mind influenced by mind? These are the conditions. Anantara, Samanantara, Nati, Vigata, Asevana, Sahajata, Anyamanyam, Asampayita. So these are the various conditions.
Which page was it?
103. So we have already seen, that mind for mind can be either these simultaneously or later or earlier. So depending on that, there are different mental factors. So the mental factors that immediately sees are a condition for present consciousness in mental factors according to Anantara, Samanantara, Nati and Vigata, which we just now studied. In Samanantara and Anantarpachya also, these lady Sayadaw says they are almost the same. So the point is being made is that the mental state which gives rise to the next arising immediately after, the previous one has to be absent for the next one to arise. So that is what is meant by Nati and Vigata. Then on the other hand, there are those jhavanas, if you remember, 7 stages of impulsion where the evaluation and assessment of the object is done. They influence each other by repetition because they're same thing arising again and again. So they become stronger and stronger. Then the Sahajata Pachyo mental factors, they influence each other by Sahajata, Anyamanya and Sampayukta because they are associated and they are also reciprocatory influencing each other. For example, the 4 khandas, 4 non-material khandas, Sanya, Vijnana, the Vedana and Sankhara. They influence each other. They are simultaneously arising every time. And so they influence each other. They are Sahajata Pachya. They are also Anyamanya because they influence each other by reciprocity and they are also associated. So all these 3 conditions simultaneously influence. So as we have been saying, these links of course are separate links, but actually the conditioning is done by many links working together because of the basic, that's how the basic study which we had done. There is not one cause for one effect, multiple causes for multiple effects. So that part is brought out in these summaries. So this is how the mind for mind influences. Then how does mind influence mind and matter? So these are the other. There is Hetu Pachya, Jhana Pachya, Amarga Pachya for Sahajat mind and matter. That is which arises together. Mind and matter which arises together. Then Sahajat volition also is a condition for that. Then asynchronous volition. Asynchronous meaning which occurs at a later time is a condition for mind matter born of Kamma by way of Kamma condition. Because Kamma can produce the fruit immediately, can also produce after a long time. So that's why there was this Kamma condition. Then mental resultant aggregates are a condition for one another by way of reciprocity, that is Anyamanyam, and Sahajat by way of Vipaka. That is, they can be influence, effect of each other, they can be the result of each other. So I'm just summarizing them, whatever we have done earlier. Then how does mind affect matter? It affects it through Pachhajata, because mind states which are arising later can influence the matter which arose earlier. I hope you remember. Why? Because matter has a larger time duration, 17 mind movements. So mind movements which can arise even later can influence the matter which arose earlier. So the body arose and the mind state which arose after a few mind movements can also influence the body, rupa which arose earlier. So that is a Pachhajata Pachya. Then how does matter influence mind? There is only one way that a matter is a condition for mind, that is through 6 bases. The I base influences mind because it causes the arising of vijnana. So it is all purejata. Similarly, the objects, they also have to be earlier. Objects have to be earlier to influence the mind, whether it is the I base or whether it is the object earlier. So it is always purejata pachya operating when matter influences mind. Then we have concepts influencing mind and matter. So concepts also influence us. It is done through Arambana and Upanishad. Arambana, you remember, is an object. So a concept can be an object. We can think about something as an object conceptually, and that can influence our mind and matter. So that's what is being. It influences as an object and Upanishad. Upanishad, you remember, is decisive support. So if you think about something and then influence, that concept can become a very strong in our mind and influence us in long periods of time. So Arambana is sixfold, it is visible form, auditory form and so on. And Upanishad is threefold. Arambana Upanishad, Anantara Upanishad and Pakat Upanishad. So we had studied all that in detail. Arambana itself, when prominent, can also become Upanishad. Object is prominent, that also can influence us in a very strong manner. Thought process can influence us in a strong manner. So states of lust and anger, faith, loving kindness, etc., they are experienced in past, and then we remember them later, and then they will say it is Pakat Upanishad. It is influencing as a natural, decisive support condition. So that's, I think, the summary of all the Patthana. Now we will study its application in Paticca Samutpana, which is quite important, of course, but quite tough also. So we'll try to see how do you go about it. I'll just go one link at a time. So just summarize the whole 24 links.
So this is Paticca Samutpada in the light of Abhidhamma.
Yeah.
ये सर कहाँ पर है अभिधम्मा की?
उसमें नहीं है, ये विशुद्धि मग्गा में है। कुछ हद तक वहाँ पे भी काफ़ी उसमें दिया हुआ, तो काफ़ी जोर लगाना पड़ता है उसमें डिस्टिल करने के लिए। कुछ एक आध पेपर एक मिला था मुझे, उसमें मिला था मुझे लिखा हुआ थोड़ा बहुत, तो इट्स नॉट वेरी इजीली अवेलेबल।
अच्छा, इस कर्म का कब फल मिलेगा?
ये कुछ नहीं पता चल सकता।
नहीं, कोई भी नहीं बता सकता है।
नो,
भगवान बुद्ध ने
हाँ, वो बताया था उन्होंने किस कुछ का, बाद में उससे कहा कब तक पूछते रहोगे। आनंद ने पूछना शुरू किया ना, उसने कहा तुम कब तक पूछते रहोगे मुझसे कि ये मरा, ये कब कहाँ पैदा होगा और ये पहले कहाँ था। Enough of it, stop.
नहीं, पर अपना ही जैसे कर्म का
हमें नहीं पता,
किसी को नहीं पता कि कौन सा कर्म का कब फल मिलेगा, 10 साल में मिलेगा।
भगवान ने कहा था ना, कर्म विपाका चिंते, अगर ये सोचने लगोगे तो यू विल गेट इनटू कंफ्यूजन। इट इज नॉट अ थिंकेबल ऑब्जेक्ट फॉर नॉर्मल ह्यूमन बीइंग्स। फॉर अ सम्यक संबुद्धा यू कैन फिगर आउट, बट नॉट फॉर नॉर्मल। सो पतिच्च समुत्पाद में पढ़ते हैं ना, अविद्या पच्चय संखारा। So what is this pachya? That is what we will now try to figure out based on whatever we have studied. So it becomes a bit complicated, but it has some value in terms of creating the delusions of.
हमने ये भी देखा था कि जो सुत्ता में वर्ड्स के मीनिंग्स होते हैं, जो हमने चीज़ें पढ़ी हैं और जो अभिधम्मा में है थोड़ी अलग है। धम्मा का मतलब वहाँ अलग है, संन्या का मतलब वहाँ अलग है।
ज़्यादा नहीं है, थोड़ा कुछ केस में।
तो पटिच्चा समुद्धाय में we will not get into this problem कि सुत्ता में जनरली जिस सेंस में बोला जाता है,
दूसरी सेंस में है एक्चुअली, उसको डिटेल दे दिया गया है कि भाई जब हम कहते हैं अविद्या पच्चय संखारा, तो अविद्या उसका कॉज है क्या? नॉर्मली तो हम जो लॉजिक हम पढ़ते हैं उसमें तो यही कहते हैं कि कॉज इफेक्ट ही मानते हैं, कंडीशनैलिटी की बात समझ में है, व्हिच इज ओनली वन काइंड ऑफ इट, एंड दैट टू नॉट। नॉर्मली हम कहेंगे ए है तो बी होके ही रहेगा, लेकिन यहाँ कहते हैं ए है तो बी हो भी सकता है, नहीं भी हो सकता है, और ए नहीं भी है तब भी हो सकता है। तो अब क्या करना, कौन सा लॉजिक लगाओगे? इट्स ऑल बेसिकली बिकॉज देयर कंडीशनैलिटीज, सो मेनी कंडीशंस conspire together to create set of conditions, so you can't figure out which is the one-to-one correspondence नहीं कर सकते. So that becomes a bit clear in that, and you get an intuitive sense क्या होगा. You can't really get into details of too many, and details is just too many, but intuitively we get a sense, it is not really a cause. Because even within Sutta, if one is an investigative point of view, तो उसको लगता है, जैसे मुझे लगता था, वो कहते हैं ना वेदना पच्चया तन्हा, अगर वेदना का तन्हा का कॉज है ही है, फिर तो छुटकारा हो ही नहीं सकता,
वेदना तो होती रहेगी,
वेदना तो होती रहेगी। तो वेदना पच्चया है, कंडीशन है, कॉज नहीं है। दूसरी चीजें ऑपरेट कर रही हैं, उसके कारण तन्हा बनेगी, नॉट बिकॉज ऑफ वेदना इटसेल्फ। दैट्स हाउ देयर इज फ्रीडम पॉसिबल, अदरवाइज तो कुछ पॉसिबल ही नहीं होता। अगर ये बिल्कुल लीनियर कॉज इफेक्ट होता फिर तो फंसे हुए थे हम, तो निकल ही नहीं सकते। So that clarity emerges when you study it in that manner. So we'll try to see if I can bring out that clarity. It's quite complex. कोशिश करते हैं। Any questions?
So there was one question earlier. Why is Rupa a prerequisite for Manodhatu? Isn't it interrelated and interdependent?
Rupa is a Purejata Pachyo, means it is to be present before consciousness can arise. I base has to be present before consciousness can arise. It cannot arise simultaneously with it. That is the point being made. Similarly, external sound has to be there before the hearing can take place. According to science also we know that. Object sound होगी तो उसके कुछ मिलीसेकंड बाद हम सुनेंगे, बाद होगा ना, उसके साथ साथ नहीं हो सकता. So we understand that way. So science helps us in understanding, and same thing is true of everything else. When we see something, the only trouble is that the rate of seeing is so fast कि लगता है वो साथ साथ देख रहे हैं, because the velocity of light is huge. और those करने देख रहे थे एस्ट्रोनॉमर्स जो हैं उनको ये कंफ्यूजन नहीं रहता है, because they see
बहुत दूर होता है.
I was just when I was last night looking at the sky and thought, which is the farthest galaxy? मैंने पढ़ा देखा 13.3 billion light years away. What does it mean?
But sir, if you look at this
13.3 billion light years away, तो उसको तो टाइम का कोई नोशन ही खत्म हो गया. How does he figure out कि वहाँ से कब लाइट is? That is the galaxy which is the youngest one, just formed after Big Bang. ये तुम ही जानते हो क्या कह रहे हो.
मुझे लगता है somehow there is a missing link there, because I think there has to be this quantum relation to this, which is हम जब entanglement की बात करते हैं तो distance doesn't come into picture. So we could be entangled with that galaxy,
but the light from
the same time.
But by parallax they are actually able to measure, ना? They are able to measure कि वो गैलेक्सी इतनी दूर है, तो इतनी दूर से इतना समय वहाँ से लाइट सिग्नल को आने में इतना लगेगा, तो वो पंचय नहीं हो, वो
बट अगर
साइमल्टेनियस नहीं हो सकता.
नहीं सर, अगर एक आ गया लाइट सिग्नल तो वो those electrons are entangled now.
Maybe.
So with that sense, अगर हम entangled हैं उनसे, तो we can at the same time influence each other.
Maybe. Influence हो सकता है, but the light time तो वही रहेगा ना. They may be influencing us. You never know. After all, ये जो astrology बनी है वो इसी basis पे बनी है कि we are being influenced by them. I don't know how and what is the theory कोई है नहीं, but that is the way it is. And they make quite interesting and accurate predictions.
There was one more question from Silesh when ma'am was talking about karma. That why does karma's affect at different times? What determines different times?
There's no way, I can't answer that. It's like asking that why does a papaya tree give fruit in 1 year and a mango gives in 10 years, and that one cactus which grows in Manipur in 12 years it gives a flower. No, what do I do? No way. Can't find out. Probably genetics people may have some answer to it. Which gene gets upgraded and which gene gets up.
Genetics people don't believe in karma. That is the problem.
Yeah, that is the problem. So somebody has to do research in that. No idea. So the Buddha solved this question very easily. Kamba vipako achintayo. Don't think about such things.
Oh.
It'll drive you crazy.
Okay, Silesh and Amit, any more questions for today?
So have they responded to, did you send them mails regarding the monastery?
Yeah,
Have they responded?
Silesh has
They
responded.
responded. Okay, so they've got
And
the
Amit
mails.
has also responded.
They've got the mails.
Hey.
So we'll have some discussion about that today now. For a few minutes. I think Arpan has not come. He was saying he will come, and I'd asked him to bring the drafts and all that. So let me find out where is he. I hope he's all right. Because only yesterday he said he'll come and we'll discuss it. So I'm surprised he couldn't come.